amazing. We're gonna try and keep doing it every month. Big City 101.3 FM. Waking up with Tayla Andre Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. Tayla, what the hell are you playing? I don't know. I've never heard that a day in my life. That sounds like some nonsense. But it is Ethiopian music. Original music. How about that? I love it, and I hope that you at least open your mind to accepting it, and it puts you in a different vibration. It puts you in a different zone. Hearing those different horns and instruments, it works with your brain differently, baby. If you don't know, please read up on it. You might learn something. As far as news is concerned, there's a lot going on, and I don't think we're going to get through all of it, but of course, you can head over to the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can just go to the website, either or, whatever makes you feel comfortable, or social media, wherever you are. Mississippi, goddamn, the lynching of Otis Bird, strange fruit as it is, adds to the state's 21st century list. Lord have mercy. So this is in Port Gibson, Mississippi. The family of Otis Bird, 54, found hanging by a white sheet from a tree 500 feet from where he lived weeks after he disappeared March 2nd, said they are planning a rally for justice for the riverboat worker. Bird's nephew, Lee Kendrick Bird, told AP that police who initially investigated the scene told them his uncle's hands had been tied, but they were freed when he tried to escape the news. Later reports from the police and the FBI and the Missouri Board of Investigation discounted that version. Even the head of the state NAACP has joined the authorities in calling for a calm pending of the investigation, speculating that Bird may have committed suicide. Bird's family and friends totally disagree. He tried to turn his life around. He was going to church every Sunday. His stepsister, Tracy Wilson, told AP, anybody could have done this. I just don't see him doing this to himself. High school classmate Laura McDaniels and Anita Smith said he always had a smile on his face. I just cannot see him committing suicide. And he was a quiet man. He didn't bother anybody. He had been out of jail for the past 9 years and has been turning his life around, doing whatever it took for him and his family. He served 25 years in Mississippi prison for capital murder and the killing of a white woman at a convenience store in 1980 during a robbery. He was paroled in 2006 in Mississippi. The penalty for capital murder is either execution or life without parole. It is unclear why Bird was allowed a sentence with parole, but if he actually was guilty of the crime. Other people are saying that this is not the first time that a black man has been hung from a tree, and they go down the list. Donna Gayo Dow, a Vietnamese descendant hanging from a tree in Philadelphia, Mississippi, from a very high oak in 2010. Roy Vail of Washington State in 2014 found hanging in a Porterville, Mississippi, where he was laying to claim his family's land. Nick Naylor in 2003 found hanging by one of his dog's leashes in Portsville, Mississippi, after he took them for a walk in the area frequented by white hunters. Renard Johnson, 17, of Kokomo, Mississippi, found hanging by his own belt in 2000 after he and his friends dated white girls in the community. James Craig Anderson, although not subjected to lynching by hanging, was attacked, beaten, and deliberately run down and killed by 3 white teens, Darrell Dedman, Dylan Butler, and John Rice, in 2001 in Jackson, Mississippi. They have been assaulted black residents in that city for some time. Again, I can go on and on and on, but I'll just leave that right there. The BRA session set up to update community on Indigo Block bid. This is going to take place June 1st. The community members will have another chance to comment on the Indigo Block redevelopment project next Wednesday, when Boston Redevelopment Authority will be presenting an update on the long vacant 2.7 acre site in Upham's Corner. Indigo Block, so named for its proximity to Upham's Corner stop on the Fairmont line, is planned to have mixed use development at 65 East Cottage Street As presented to the Boston Civic Design Commission in March, the project includes 80 residential apartments for market rate, 2 family homes for ownership, and a building with about 20,000 square feet of light industrial commercial space. A public meeting will be held on Wednesday from 6:30 p.m. till 8 p.m. in the Mayor's Gallery Room at the Strand Theater at 543 Columbia Road. The nonprofit Dorchester Bay Economic Development Corp was tapped in 2015 to lead a team in rehabbing the site of the former Maxwell Box Company, the property which was seized by the city in 2011 for its owner's failure to pay back taxes sits between commercial, residential, and community use land. The design has not changed significantly since March presentation, but although the BRA and Design Commission staff have urged the development team to make more permeable campus with regard to the project's proximity to the adjacent commuter rail station, I would like to say, as far as the BRA is concerned, earlier in the article, it talked about how the property was seized and the city took a hold of it because back taxes were not paid. I would also like to remind you that there's a such thing as eminent domain. It's also a such thing as zoning. And the BRA has 100% rights to both. I can take your land from you, and I can tell you that even though you can't build on this property, as the BRA, I have absolutely no zoning laws to hold me back from anything. So I do what I want. Just want to remind you of that. In case you didn't know, your city councilors voted on that. 3 of them did not. Zachem did not. Presley did not. And Jackson did not. The other ones did. 6 years of continuous eminent domain, 6 years of continuous zoning free rights. Parents sue California for a law that forces kids to get vaccinated. You guys remember the conversation that we had about this a few months back? SB 277, a law which vaccine exemptions are only granted due to verifiable medical reasons. You can't have religious reasons. You can't have philosophical reasons. You can't have just because I said so reasons. You have to have documented notification from your doctor that says that your child cannot get vaccinated because of health reasons. That's it. And parents are saying, listen, not us, we're suing. Most states, except for Mississippi and West Virginia, allow exemptions based on religious belief, and 19 states allow exemptions for philosophical objections. But these allowances will not last long in California. Last year, California lawmakers passed the SB 277 law, which makes vaccine exemptions granted only due to medical reasons. The new law poses a big problem for California residents and the mother of 2, Sharon Brown. Despite repeated assurances from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, the World Health Organization, aka the WHO, several peer-reviewed studies which conclude that there is no link between vaccines and autism. The state has to prove, and the reason for those that are currently on YouTube that are like, Tayla, why did you make that face? I made that face because there is a lawyer who fought hard for his son. And the reason why he fought hard for his son is because his son was perfectly fine. Then he went ahead and got 7 injections at one time, different vaccines, and all of a sudden his child was diagnosed with autism. What are you saying? There's no link between the two. Again, I want to bring it back to, I cannot think of her name right now, but I will repost the conversation, the interview on the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page, where she talked about how her son became crippled after he received his vaccines. And we had a whole 2-part conversation with her on the national vaccine, largest organization that informs, doesn't tell you to be against vaccines, just informs you And that's her biggest thing, is like, there is no informed consent. I should have known what these vaccines were going to do to my child. I should have known the implications, health implications that were going to take place afterwards. And I'll post those. I think that it's detrimental for us to all have that information at our hands. And for anybody who has just had a baby, or their children need shots coming up, what I would like to ask you to do is to ask for the information, that leaflet that comes in the box. You know, every medication comes with a leaflet, not that little piece of paper that has about 6 or 7, bullet points on it. The actual leaflet that comes in the vaccine is about this long, this big. It's about 2 feet long, and it's front and back with the words that are itty bitty living space. So just do your own due diligence, baby. And that's for everything that you do, everything that you stick in your body, your children's body, all of it. 60,000 Chinese factory workers have been replaced by robots. 60,000 Chinese factory workers. What about your job? How long you think your job's going to last for? Oh, I was just asking. Foxconn, a major manufacturer of devices for Apple and Samsung, has reportedly fired 60,000 workers in one of its factories in China and replaced them with robots. The factory in China has reduced the number of employees from 110,000 to 50,000 thanks to the introduction of robots. And more companies are likely to follow suit, according to the head of publicity in that region, Zhu Yulin. The producer confirmed that most of the manufacturing tasks are currently being automated, but stressed it would not necessarily mean long-term job losses. Foxconn intends to increase automation and at the same time maintain a significant manufacturing workforce in the country. We are applying robotic engineering and other innovative manufacturing technologies to replace repetitive tasks, and through training, also enabling our employees to focus on higher value added elements in manufacturing process. The hell does that mean if you just took my job away? I swear. Ass backwards. And it's life. This is life. A black high school senior was kicked out of his graduation for wearing a traditional African stole. Nuri Holmes was looking forward to what should have been a proud moment for him and his family on Tuesday. He planned to walk across the stage in his graduation from Consum's Oak High in Elk Grove, California, with a traditional African kente cloth draped across his shoulder. But as the 18-year-old approach, he was told by the school's activity director that he would have to take it off. For Holmes, the cloth signifies his African heritage and Christian upbringing, and he refused to take it off. He said on his Twitter feed, "So I wore this thing called a kente cloth, cultural cloth from Ghana, around my neck that represents my family, my blackness." And he says, so Matt Mason walks up to me while I'm in line to walk on stage and tells me to give it to him. So I tell him, no, this is mine. The Mason proceeds to tell me that I cannot walk across stage, and I respond, but I will. And then he proceeds to get several teachers to try and get me to take it off. I let them know that this is a cultural piece and I refuse to be forced not to take pride in who I am. I asked him if it was his agenda, was worth more than my cultural pride, and he says he has no agenda. So he proceeded to tell me that I will have the police remove me, so he brings over a rent-a-cop. While Mason stepped away to call security at Sleep Trend Arena, where the graduation was held, Holmes said his turn came up and he walked across the stage with his kente cloth on, only to be confronted by security officers and others at the end of the other stage. So I tell him no, and I see Mason storm out and get the police. Before I get to walk, I get to the stage and I think I'm home clear. I go through shaking all the hands, smiling, feeling as if I won. Then I get to the stairs and I see 3 sheriffs at the bottom of the stairs. They tell me to leave with them, and I said, sure, you guys, let's go. As I'm walking out, I call my mom to let her know that I'm being taken away by the cops. I stop to ask them if I can get my diploma and drop off my cap and gown. So I get outside and walk to my family and tell them what happened, and my dad takes my cap and gown and tries to get my diploma since they refused to give it to me and they refused to give it to him. So we're sitting there like, what are we supposed to do now? This is his Twitter feed. So I'm just reading his Twitter feed. So my dad comes across the security guard, black, of course, that gets me into the exit to get me my diploma. And he takes a picture and says, much love, brother. Stay up and achieve more. End of story. So yes, forget Costumes Oak High School. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? Like, in all honesty, over a piece of cloth. It's 2016. Lord have mercy. For all my ladies, I already know the men are probably taking care of this. So let me talk to my ladies for a quick second. If you have a Honda Motor Company is recalling 4.5 million U.S. vehicles. Fiat Chrysler is recalling 4.3 million U.S. vehicles. Toyota, 1.65 million U.S. vehicles. Subaru, 400,000 vehicles. Mazda, 730,000 vehicles. Nissan, 400,000 vehicles. Mitsubishi, 38,000 2006 to 2007 Lancer vehicles, Ferrari 2008 sports car. If you have any of these vehicles, please contact or go straight to whatever company your car is with, and these recalls are going to be fixed for free. So one of the things that we don't know as ladies is that if your vehicle has a recall, that is not your problem. That means that so many people have already complained about this issue that they have to fix it across the board. So 8 car manufacturers are recalling more than 12 million vehicles in the U.S. to replace potential deadly airbags. And it's not just airbags, because my insurance company informed me that my vehicle also has a recall, and it has nothing to do with the airbags. So I don't know about your insurance company, but you might want to check with them. And also there is a website. It's like checkmyrecall.com or something like that. And you just put in your VIN number. And as you put in your VIN number, it goes down the list of all of the things that your car may have a recall for. And then you can go ahead and take it to the manufacturer. They will fix it and you pay nothing out of pocket. So just be mindful. Again, I will list those names again: Honda, Fiat, Chrysler, Toyota, Mazda, Nissan, Subaru, Ferrari, and Mitsubishi. I'm sorry, did I name all the cars on the road? I think so. Just be mindful, just be careful, because it's your life and your safety and the safety of your children that are at hand, and it is at no cost to you. So take that time, invest in yourself, invest in your children, and be mindful, because if it's an airbag recall and you get into an accident and no airbag implodes, implodes, then you're going to be like, damn, I wish I went to the manufacturer. California rushes to allow HIV-positive organ transplant to save the life of a man in desperate need of a liver. So California lawmakers rushed through emergency legislation today, and this took place on May 27th. It allows for HIV-infected organs to be used in transplant for HIV patients. That sounds so common sense, doesn't it? But legislation has said that HIV people those infected with HIV cannot give blood. They cannot be organ donors. And that never made sense to me, even like in middle school when we learned about HIV. Because what about people with HIV that need these organ transplants? And it's funny, like I was a little kid then, just a little itty bitty thing. And now that I'm an adult, 2016, they're like, oh, we have to change legislation. If it made common sense to an 8th grader, where are we in the world? And really quickly, I would like to say that if legislation can be rushed, Why on earth have we not changed legislation here in the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to ensure that we have equitable and diverse police staff? We can change legislation. We can rush legislation. Ask your governor and your mayor, as well as your police commissioner. I'll just leave that right there. This is the greatest graduation speech ever. So it is a long speech. It's about 5 minutes long. It was given by a Harvard student, and it is absolutely amazing. I listened to it, and I'm going to post it so you can listen to it too. But I would like to read just a small little quote. He said, "Education, then, beyond all other devices of human origin, is the greatest equalizer of the conditions of men." Horace Mann. At the time of his remarks, I couldn't read, I couldn't write. Any attempt to do so is punishable by death. And that was in 1848. I'm sorry. For new generations, we have known the knowledge of infinite power, yet somehow we've never questioned the keeper of the keys, the guardians of information. Unfortunately, I've seen more dividing and conquering in this order of operations, a heinous, malicious of reality. For some, the only difference between a classroom and a plantation is time. For many times, we must be made to feel like quotas, like tokens in a coined phrase, diversity, inclusion. There are days I feel like one, like only. The only blossom in a briar patch of broken promises, but I've always been a thorn in the side of injustice. Disruptive, talkative, a distraction, with a passion of transcends the confines of my consciousness, beyond your curriculum, beyond your standards. I stand here, a manifestation of love and pain, with veins pumping revolution. I am the strange fruit that grew too ripe for the poplar tree. I am a dream act, a dream deferred incarnate. I am a movement. I can't tell you. And the way he speaks this poem, his speech, this Harvard grad, absolutely beautiful. Please head over to TaylaAndre. Give me to like 7:05, and I'll go ahead and post it for you. But it is so beautiful. Louisiana State Representative. We're coming to the top of the hour, and it is going to be an amazing power hour. Louisiana Rep causes outrage by implying the Declaration of Independence is racist. A politician says that students should not recite it as it was conceived in the time of slavery. A bill proposed students between the ages of 4th grade and 6th grade recite passage every day. Barbara Norton argued against it, pointing out the inequities that persisted despite documents' famous line that all men are created equal. Literacy laws in Jim Crow era also disenfranchised Black people, asking them to read or recite from the Declaration of Independence before voting. Valerie Hodges shelved the bill and called the amendments suggesting students recite other historical texts instead of poisoning pills. She said memorizing the passage was important as math or English or verbs, depending upon how you see it. I understand why they took "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America." I understand why they took that out of school. "And in the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." One of the things that I was completely ignorant to, and if you have not seen, there is currently a video posted of Sabir Bey talking about the Pledge of Allegiance and talking about "I pledge of allegiance to America." What is it, Reggie B? I forgot. I haven't said it so long. "I pledge allegiance to the republic."
To the flag.
To the republic. "I pledge allegiance to the republic of the United States of America." But I thought we were a democracy. It was a very interesting conversation. It was definitely an eye-opener. I've probably listened to it about twice since we recorded it on Friday, and I will probably have to listen to it 100 more times before I can gain all of the information and knowledge and the names of the books that were mentioned in the 2-hour span that we spoke. So please, please, do your due diligence, because I definitely have to do mine, and listen to what's being said, and then, you know, go ahead and read up on what was being said, so you can get the proper knowledge for yourself. You don't have to agree. You can definitely disagree, but at least read before you make your opinion. So, as you know, I don't like Donald Trump. I could care less for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is probably one of the worst human beings on earth, in my opinion, not fact. But one of the things Donald Trump said that I have to totally agree with is the fact that he said illegals are taken care of better than our veterans. Trump promises to improve care for servicemen in a speech to 600,000 bikers at Rolling Thunder Rally. I would have to say, so yesterday, shout out to Boss Lady News. Yesterday, we went ahead and went to a veterans homeless shelter, and we dropped off the remainder of what was left over from Saturday. Saturday was family movie day. Absolutely amazing. Surprise was a very funny, independent local film. We also had Honky Holocaust, which was the first time I saw it. Val Beats did an amazing job with that. And it was just really good. And we had probably about 15 to 20 wraps left over, and we definitely could have split them up amongst ourselves, amongst the viewers, and said, here, you know, it's left over. But we took them Sunday to some homeless vets, and when I tell you how appreciative they were and how thankful they were for the grub, and just being amongst them and hearing them talk and hearing them speak on their struggle. You know, veterans definitely are not respected in the way that you think that they should. When they have given their life, they played Russian roulette, went across seas, and fought for our independence, for our freedoms, for our ability to run our mouth and not be blown up for just simply thinking of freedom. And I'm grateful. I really am. But I wish we treated our veterans better than we currently do. And Trump may not always have any common sense, but with this, I would have to agree that there are people that come in this country today that will have housing, will have food, will have anything and everything that they need tomorrow. But we have vets that are still on the streets battling and trying to be seen by a doctor and have to wait 6 months for an appointment. We have to do better, America. We have to do better. And as tax-paying citizens, it is our duty to demand better for our veterans. With that being said, it is 6:01. Waking Up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7, Big City 101.3. I know many of y'all are still recuperating from yesterday's camo boat ride. And I know many of you are probably still sleeping, but for those that are currently listening, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, ZC Boston, 801 Mass Ave. They have free parking. During the weekends, it's half price sushi from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Do not forget to order your lychee martini, my favorite drink in the whole wide world. And they have poo-poo platters, of course, but I like the samplers, the ZC Sampler 1 and the ZC Sampler 2. Shout out to Faith's Naturals Beauty for free samples. Please go to the website, Faiths with an S, Naturals with an S, beauty.com for the Pum Pum Wash, the deodorant, the rose infused oil, the Queen Divine bath soak. You'll love it. I love it. And I had somebody call me like, Tayla, my boyfriend absolutely loves it. I thank you so much for mentioning it. You're welcome, baby. She said, I smell so good. I just like sniffing myself, and that oil will definitely do it to you. Do not forget that June 4th is the Cruise Cares event, and the Cruise Cares is cruising company is doing a walk for our youth, a walk for our children to raise money to make sure that our youth have jobs over the summer. That is going to be at Franklin Park, June 4th. Please do not forget to come out. We are going to have a representative from Cruise Cares talk about how they are the first African-American construction company here in the Northeast. And I'm really excited for that. Cruise Cares, June 4th. And as far as Memorial Day is concerned, let's go through the history. So there is a website called snoops.com. And what snoops.com does is they take these claims, or they take these fictional stories, and they say, no, this is not true. Let us tell you the truth. Now, I have officially stopped believing in snoops.com. Over this weekend, I did my due diligence to find out how I can go ahead and give you all the information you need about Memorial Day. And I read, there's a meme going around right now that talks about Memorial Day was started by former slaves on May 1st, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, to honor 257 dead Union soldiers that had been buried in a mass grave in a Confederate prison camp. They dug up the bodies, worked for 2 weeks to give them a proper burial as gratitude for fighting for their freedom. Then they held a parade of 10,000 people led by 2,800 Black children that marched and sang in celebration. What is true about that? In May of 1865, free Blacks in Charleston reburied dead Union prisoners of war and held a cemetery dedication ceremony. What's false is that the May 1865 event was the origin of modern Memorial Day observance. I would also like to remind you that Snoops.com is also the website that said that the first president of the United States of America was not a Black man, simply because presidents weren't named during that time. There's no such thing as a president. There's no such thing as one individual leading the country. So because we didn't have the name president, he's not the first president of the United States. I just wanted to leave that there. So I do love how all other history as far as Memorial Day is concerned is after May 1865, which even Snoop says in May of 1865, free Blacks in Charleston did rebury the dead. They did. They absolutely did. But what they're saying is that's not the reason why we have Memorial Day. Well, okay. With that being said, I won't. I was going to say something so ignorant. I'm going to leave it there. Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre. I have an amazing guest on the line. We talk about our veterans. We talk about Memorial Day. We talk about observing those that have died before us. But what day do we have for those indigenous people? Those people that were killed, murdered, slaughtered, so we can now claim Memorial Day here in the land of the free and the brave. What day do we have for that? What day do we remember the Native Americans? What day do we remember the Moors? Last time I checked, there is no date. On the line now, we have a representative from Indigenous people. Good rising, my king, how are you?
Good morning, Kwe, Akwani, Wunikista, Wunimatompan. How are you?
I am fine. Hold on, say that again.
Akwe, Akwani, Wunikisa, Wunimatompan.
And what is that, and what does that mean?
That means peace, good day, and how are you doing today?
So if you don't mind, can we say that together one more time?
Of course. Akwe.
Akwe.
Akwe. Akwani.
Akwani.
Winikisak.
Winnequisac.
Winikisak.
Hold on. You said Winnequisac?
Wune.
Wune.
Kisak.
Kisak.
Yep.
Oh, yay. Okay, I got it.
Winnie Matompan.
Winnie Matonkin. Okay, one more time.
Matompan.
Matompan.
Yes, good morning.
Good rising. So, first of all, one of the things that I would like to say is the Akwe. Is that the first one? Akwe?
Akwe.
Akwe. How many children out here are named Aquita, Baquita, Bumqueakin. Like I'd like to all these names that we've made fun of our whole life. Little did we know we were going all the way back. How do you think, just for kicks and giggles, how do you think that's possible that these ignorant folks with no education that don't know their history can go all the way back hundreds of years and to name their children peace?
That's a very complicated question to ask. I think a lot of it has to do with blood memory. Unconsciously knowing that those were the words that we speak. Those are the words that we spoke. That was our language, our original language. And now everything comes back full circle. So I think that's where it shows blood memory.
And for those who do not know, what is blood memory?
Blood memory is remembering those past things, whether they were atrocities or traumas or even great things that still are just being passed down in your blood through the memory of your blood. So maybe anything that's hereditary, even a sickness, it could be a way that you act as your ancestors used to act, unconsciously knowing. Yeah.
So I have to say that I am impressed. I'm impressed with us. I'm impressed because, again, how many times have we been called ignorant? How many times have we been called uneducated? But yet that blood memory to remember. Please say it again. All 4 words.
Akwe.
Akwe.
Aquini.
Aquini.
Winnikisak.
Winnikisak.
William Matompin.
Willie Matompin. And again, one more time, what do those mean?
Peace. How are you? Good day and good morning.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Please tell us, what are Indigenous people, or who are Indigenous people?
What are Indigenous people and who are Indigenous people is a very self-determined thing. So Indigenous peoples are the first peoples, the first inherent peoples, the first habitat of peoples, of original peoples of these lands. Whether it's from North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Russia, doesn't matter. It's the first people. Those are who Indigenous peoples are.
Do we know who the first people are? Do we know who these Indigenous folks are? Are there any today still living, or generations of those that used to live? Do we have their descendants here today?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Descendants of those Indigenous peoples who most people don't realize are still living, are actually living indeed. I can definitely say that I am a living descendant of the first leaders, the first chiefs, the first royalty, the first Aborigine of Massachusetts. I come from a very long line of royal chiefs and Saukums. My direct descendancy is from Chickatawbit, Wampatuck, Palmatuck, Chincompsett, just to name a few. I come from Wampatuck's people. My bloodline comes from that line. And Wampatuck, not sure if you knew or know, or if anyone knows, but Wampatuck was said to have been the indigenous leader of Massachusetts who sold all of his land, including the city of Boston, to the Plymouth Bay colony, to the British, to the English.
Why? Or how? Or, you know, when we talk about Thanksgiving, or when we talk about, you know, today, Memorial Day, why is it that we don't learn this history? And not just the history of your lineages, but the history of Native Americans, period. All we learn about is Pocahontas and John Smith, and, you know, color this piece of paper that shows that the Pilgrims and Indians were best friends and had a wonderful feast together.
Well, truth is, most states in the United States and all around the world, it's a conflict of interest for them to teach and to educate indigenous peoples who don't even know that they're indigenous people. You don't tell someone how you stole their land from them. When a thief steals something, he doesn't run and tell on himself. So we're left to knowing only about Pocahontas and about John Smith and how they were friends and how they fell in love. When the reality is, John Smith, he did not fall in love. Pocahontas did not fall in love. There was some very difficult tension between the two, in fact. But what they teach us is that it was a romance. They didn't teach you about John Smith sexually abusing Pocahontas and raping Pocahontas.
What I said.
They didn't tell you that. You know, and it's the same. They're not going to tell you that the descendants of these leaders who so-called sold their land to the colonists, to the visitors, the intruders, they're not going to teach in a textbook that their ancestors and their descendants still lived. But we clearly still live. But it's a matter of, do we recognize them as authority to say, to be able to have the power to say, you are or you are not indigenous people.
What does that mean? Let's say, for instance, that, you know, let me speak ignorantly. If you get your blood checked and you are 1/16 Native American, you can then get your numbers and your paperwork and you become this other citizen that can get free land and build casinos. Ignorantly speaking.
Right. So the first piece of that sentence you spoke, for someone who doesn't know, would be that not all tribes are blood quantum tribes. Not all tribes allow for you to get enrollment into your tribe by getting blood taken to show how much. So if you want to talk about the first full-blood Indians, you're looking at years ago.
Wampy, me,
right?
Quinn.
You're looking at years ago and what they consider full-blood. So full-blood is really a great word of genocide. And I'll tell you why. If you're a full-blooded Indian, right, and you say you're a full-blood, right? But they say there are black people, right? You say, well, my mom is an Indian and my dad is an Indian, right? My mom and dad are both indigenous. But to them, who have created
That is his name.
what black is, which has no ethnicity, has no race behind it legally, okay?
The government name's Larry Fisher.
And they'll say, well, you're black. And then you say to them, well, can you explain to me what black is? They'll say, yeah, well, you're African American. And then you believe it. Just like they believed, or we believe, that we sold them the land.
Are you saying that black people are indigenous people? Is this what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on, wait, pause. Does that mean we can all get casinos?
Well, no. The casino situation is not the best
I was being facetious.
situation for economic development for indigenous peoples. One, indigenous peoples are not educated in gaming as much as we thought we were when that opportunity rose for our communities as a support of economic growth. Two, we deal with attorneys, and attorneys are never really obligated, or, you know, their first obligation is not to the indigenous people, it's to their own pockets, or if they're a state attorney,
Yes.
it's to the bar
Yes.
association. So that's a conflict of interest, okay?
I got you.
Happens is, right, a lot of attorneys end up embezzling big money from indigenous peoples, and indigenous peoples lose out. So gaming is just not the thing. There are conferences that are thrown yearly that are called Business Beyond Gaming. It teaches indigenous peoples how to be more economically supportive. It teaches them how to be economically sustainable beyond gaming. There's so much more that we can do even with our natural resources beyond gaming. But to get back to your original question was, does this mean that black people are indigenous people? You're absolutely right, it does. Paper genocide has been a real thing throughout the United States and Indian country. If they put on your birth certificate that you're colored, what does that mean? They put that you're black, what does that mean? If they put that you're a Negro, what does that mean? None of those categories or classifications have any racial ethnicity or nationality behind them. Most people that I ask on a daily basis, and I say, are you black or are you indigenous? And they'll say, oh, I'm black. I say, well, did your grandmother tell you you were Indian? Yeah. I said, so did you believe her? People say, well, did you believe her? Of course I believe her. So again, are you black or are you indigenous? And what is black? Have you done your genealogy to prove that you came from Africa? Can you show me and tell me what tribe you're from in Africa? What community you come from? So the issue is paper genocide plays a huge part in this. Lack of transparency and access to open public records is the worst. And I think Massachusetts statistically
Is one of the
was
worst.
named the worst
Yeah.
state in the United States for having access to open public records.
So this is I have a bunch of questions now because you answered my initial question where I thought you were going to say no. I thought you were going to say black people are not indigenous people. I thought you were going to say no, black people come from Africa. They're not indigenous to this land called the United States. But you said, yes, Black people are indigenous to this land. How do, and first of all, let me be transparent and say, I don't even know what paper genocide means. I didn't even know it was a thing until you said something right now. And for those that are listening, how can we alter that paper genocide now that we're waking up, we're learning a little bit? How can I go back and change my birth certificate so then it reads indigenous? What steps do I have to take so I can be indigenous and not colored, African American, or Black?
Right, very good question. So there are many, well, there's not many, but there's very few organizations now who assist in the reclassification of the colored or the Negro or the Black person. For Indigenous peoples, the word Black means beautiful. It means so many things, so many amazing things. But to those who are non-Indigenous who created it, it meant the unknown. It meant you don't know who you are. Okay? So there are ways that you can reclassify. There is an organization, it's a national organization. It's called the NAAIP, and that organization is the National Association for the Advancement of Indigenous Peoples. This organization is an IPO that is registered to the United Nations. They assist in the reclassification and the restructuring of Indigenous peoples or Black people into understanding where they come from, where their land is located, what their genealogy is, and they help to assist in reclassifying you as your status as an Indigenous person.
So it is possible, but there are steps that need to be taken through this organization, the NAAIP, the National Association for the Advancement of Indian People or Indigenous People. Is this something that is cost related? Is it going to be costly, or is it something that has some funding to it?
I believe that the membership fee is, I think it's last I checked was $75 for a membership fee. And that organization works very hard and diligently to assist the individuals or even the family or the broken tribe, into a new structured community, so that that community can have some voice and some kind of a platform and support from the international community and from the national community.
So I was just handed some information. Negro is dead in law. African American is an immigrant and has no legal claim against the United States for slavery. There were no African Americans listed as slaves in America. The water is completely tainted in the law. The NAAIP, the only source with an open door for Negro claims. What does this mean? Thank you.
What does that mean? That means that NAAIP is the only organization in the United States.
It's indigenous to Ethiopia.
To be able to reclassify the original Aboriginal person into their indigenous status. There were some deadlines that the NAAIP met and filed with the Department of Commerce and the United States, and they made it through. So at this point, NAAIP is the only organization that I know in the United States where you're able to reclassify your identity into its proper status.
So really quickly, We are currently on the line. I might butcher this. Please bear with me. Wampa, me, Quinn, Wampatuck. And we are learning about Indigenous people. And I know today is Memorial Day, and people like Tayla, this has nothing to do with veterans. This has nothing to do with those that fought for our country. But I wanted to take it all the way back to the beginning for those that were killed in order for us to make claim to this country. And I wanted to honor those that are never honored, and to honor those that are always forgotten, and to honor those that no one ever mentions. So today, again, we are on the line with Wampa Mequin, Wampatuck, and we are learning about our Indigenous roots. And let me say, for those that are listening that feel like they have never had a place to belong, they haven't done their genealogy, and they're like, listen, I just thought I was a Negro. My grandma was a Negro. My great-great-great-grandma was a Negro. Somebody down the line was a slave. Like, we really don't have a heritage. We really don't have a background. I'm just a Negro living in the projects right now. Like, for those that don't feel connected, that don't feel like, I don't have good hair, so I don't think I'm Indian, how can we give them an identity, or how can they find an identity? Is there anybody out here that might get their blood checked, that might say, you know, we really don't know where you come from? Or can everybody be, does everybody have a place to call home?
Everybody does have a place to call home. There's no such thing as a human colored person with beautiful brown skin that is not indigenous to somewhere very, very important where land is being stolen on a daily basis from you. It is impossible.
And I'm just now hearing this information for the first time. So the first thing I need to do is contact the NAAIP in order for me to take those first steps. Or the first thing I need to do is go get my blood checked or my DNA checked.
Do not waste your money or your time on getting your blood checked. We're working very diligently. Some of the things that I work on and that I've been very successful in is putting together and structuring legislation to be more transparent with their open public records. Historical societies, historical commissions, genealogical societies, state archives, you know, these kind of places hold our history. They hold our documentation. It's very difficult for them to let it go, because when they let it go, they understand what that means. They understand that people like myself may ask them, may I please see the charter of the Plymouth Bay Colony from Massachusetts? And when we ask questions like that, it makes the state very, very nervous.
Let's make them nervous.
Then they start to tell you things like, we don't have it, or some drug addict stole it. And then you ask them,
What the?
well, if somebody stole this out of the state or a federal facility,
Where did the police report
can
at?
you please send me a copy of the police report?
Yep.
And when you ask for the
Exactly.
police report, they hang their phones up on you, or they don't want you in their buildings.
Hold on, is this a real thing? You ask them and they tell you a drug addict stole it? And you ask for a police report and they hang up? Like, this is a real thing. In the United States of America, you cannot get, and this is what paper genocide is.
This is what paper genocide is. But it's also writing things like Negro or colored on a birth certificate instead of putting our tribe's name on the birth certificate.
So for people that are women that are pregnant right now, or women that plan on becoming pregnant in the future, how can we end this in this tracks? Like, it ends with my generation. It ends with me. I may not have been able to save my other children, but if I have another child, I am going to do what? What can we do if somebody is pregnant right now or becomes pregnant in the future?
Well, there's many ways that you can go. You can go there and say, look, I don't want a birth certificate for my child.
What? Hold on, wait. Last time I checked, and I was in. Listen, when I gave birth to Asaria, there were some things going on between her father and I. I didn't know what we were going to name her, so I told them to wait. Do you know that they brought in the nurse, the doctor, and a security officer and told me that I had to sign her birth certificate, had to sign over her social security card, or I was not free to leave the hospital? And you're telling me I can sit here and request not to get a birth certificate?
You can request that you do not want to sign on to the birth certificate. And you can also request that you look at their policy and procedure behind having a birth certificate. Always ask to sit down with them in a meeting to review what their policy and procedure is. What I would tell you is this: women, Indigenous women who are getting ready to give birth, before you give birth, I would consult with your doctor, your physician, and ask them, what is the policy and procedure around the birth certificate before I give birth to my child? Mm-hmm. And can I still give birth here in the hospital without having to sign a birth certificate and having the inherent rights in my own intellectual property, as it is my child, to take my child and leave without being kidnapped by any authorities who are de facto?
Does that play a role in, because as you talk, my mind is wandering, and I'm wondering whether or not that has something to do with our social security number and you being a ward of the state. Because for those who don't know, every child is a ward of the state, awarded of the, again, go back to etymology and how words are so important. How can we go ahead? I'm woosah, because I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting aggravated, and I feel like there is so much knowledge that we as Americans, Black Americans, white Americans, Negro, colored, I feel like there is so much information out here that is blinded to us. And I want all the answers, Sway. What are we supposed to do? What are our options?
We have to revert back to our indigenous ways. If you know that these are the obstacles and the things that are being put onto your children, then you need to go back to the original self of who you are and where you come from.
But many of us don't even know who we are. We don't know where we come from. And now that we know about paper genocide, we can't exactly go and say, hey, Harvard, you have the charter of where my people came from. Can I have that back?
Well, it's not about giving it back. It's, let's see if it's even real or if it even exists. I've never really seen it. I've never seen the original copy.
Ever?
I've never seen it. I've never seen any of the original copies in my hand of all the land in Massachusetts that my ancestors sold.
So you are currently fighting for that land back?
Absolutely.
How has that fight been going? How have you navigated yourself through the court system for that fight, and what has that looked like as far as opposition is concerned?
The majority of what's going on, I would say that I'm not at, I would have to speak on that, maybe in a more intimate setting.
Okay. That sounds like an exclusive.
It has been a challenge. It is very brand new to a lot of agencies, state agencies and federal agencies. And my work just continues. My work continues.
Can you foresee more Indigenous people claiming their land, claiming their their freedom or claiming what's theirs. Can you, not just based off of our conversation, our interview, but has there been an increase of people that are interested in claiming what belongs to them?
Yes, a huge increase. This year, I attended the UNPFII 15th session at the United Nations, and that UNPFII is the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. This is a 2-week conference to put out on the table in an international venue what the issues are of indigenous tribes globally. And across the board, we all have land issues, forcible removal, and land being taken without our free or prior informed consent. We have genocide that has happened rapidly in indigenous communities, not just paper genocide, but physical genocide. People killed.
Hold on, but before you continue, what do you mean people being killed, indigenous people being killed today? What does that mean?
Like the West Papua people of Indonesia, the indigenous peoples there, the Indonesian government is killing them rapidly, going in, shooting them dead rapidly, every single day, to take their land so that they can build and develop and create money for them, for their government. It's happening around the world. These are issues that happen on a daily basis. This is the Memorial Day that we, the indigenous people of Americas, we speak of, and of the world we speak of. People are being murdered. Our families are being killed. You know, they're killing us with different, in different ways. You know, through food, through the air quality, through the pollution of the gases. You know, they're killing our people out. And they're killing us physically. They're using firearms to kill our people, to take our land, to develop economically for themselves.
So at what point is there responsibility? At what point are there consequences? Now, if I'm an indigenous person and I'm in the quote unquote jungle, or I'm on my land, and you kill my child, you killed my brother, you killed my uncle, you killed my daughter, who do I go? What authority? Again, I'm indigenous, this is my land. Who do I go to tell on you, or to demand consequence?
Oh, that's the issue. The issue is that who's higher than your federal government? You have the international courts in Netherlands, but the issue is that in international venues, there's not always a military to enforce the laws against those who have inflicted violence or who have killed you. Only federal governments have militias to help stop this cruelty. So what we've been champions in, and what I've been a champion in, is creating and looking to implement new strategies to build relationships in the most strategic way that we can, using the outcome documents of the United Nations that are mandated to their member states, their member countries, and using those in such a way to hold their federal governments in each country very accountable for the damages that they have done against their indigenous peoples. So we're at the table now with negotiations. We're at the table now with putting those who are responsible in the light of the international communities and finding new ways to build healthier relationships between the two governments.
Okay.
On his Facebook.
And it's not an easy task. It's a very difficult, very challenging task to do. And it's work every day, all day long. There's a lot of uncomfortability. And it's so difficult for Indigenous people to come to a place in their lives to be able to say, I'm still willing to work on a new solution to find peace and conflict resolution between us governments, sovereign nations.
Do Indigenous people have government? Is there, because you said you guys work with lawyers and lawyers that,
Right.
so the question that I wanted to ask is whether or not there are maybe Indigenous lawyers fighting for these rights. Are there any Indigenous lawyers, and what government or authority speaks on Indigenous people's behalf?
So, again, we have the United Nations Permanent Forum that speaks on the behalf of Indigenous peoples. We look toward the help of Ban Ki-moon, who is the Secretary General of the United Nations, to follow through with what has been mandated to their member states that says Indigenous peoples have the right to X, Y, and Z. Indigenous people shall not be killed, shall not be forcibly removed. There's so much. And the document that was created and adopted was called the UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. And that was adopted in 2007 by the General Assembly of the United Nations. This document was not adopted by, I think it was 4 different countries. One was Canada, one was the United States, and I can't think of the other 2 off the top, but the United States did not adopt that UNDRIP, because for the United States, they simply knew what that meant. That meant, whoa, all the Indigenous people of the world have the right to all their land again? What does that mean for us? What does that mean for all the natural resources that we steal and we trade across country?
What would that look like? If you could put that into some...
That would look like the Indigenous community having all of their land back again, which means the United States, therefore, would not have any jurisdiction on any tribal territories, which the whole United States, which was considered Turtle Island, was all tribal territory.
So I would like to ask whether or not this is the Moors basis. So there's a lot of videos on YouTube that have Moors asking judges, like, what is your jurisdiction? You don't have jurisdiction over me. And I'm wondering whether what the Moors are saying about you not having jurisdiction over me, who are your authorities? I do not reside under your authority. And what you're saying kind of sounds like it goes hand in hand. How do the Indigenous people and the Moors, how are they one and the same, if not totally separate?
That's a very good question. It's very complex to answer. The Moors are right on point when it comes to the laws. I think that where the Moors have a challenge, maybe an obstacle, and not really, because again, it's the look and the outlook of who has plenary powers to even say that you must show documentation, right? So I think where the Moors are coming from is when the court system rebuts any documentation that the Moors put in, it goes down to documentation of hereditary land claim. Can you claim land and can you claim genealogy? And again, we spoke about paper genocide. So for some Moors, it's going to be very difficult. for them to claim genealogy because the lack of transparency to open public records. They may have been burned, they may have been hidden purposely, so that you don't have any claims to land or to who you are.
So one of the things that I would like to make mention is recently we had a family reunion in Tulsa. No, was it Tulsa, Alabama? Recently we had a family reunion, and my grandmother had me do a genealogy, and my great 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 grandmother was a Moor, and I'm interested in knowing like where or what exactly needs to be done so our family can take claim of Mary Moore's land. And what would that look like? Like hypothetically, let's say, let's be very hypothetical for a second. Let's say, for instance, we got Reggie B in the studio, chillaxing. Reggie B's family comes from Moors. Reggie B is a Moor. Tayla Andre is a Moor, and Takwa on the line is a Moor. So we're Moors. We just found out that, you know, we have our paper. Our paper genocide did not take place for us. Give me my land. But my land is currently being occupied by Merrill Lynch. My land is currently being occupied by UMass Boston. My land is currently occupied by Wall Street. Hypothetically, what would that look like if I have my paper in my hand that says that Wall Street, UMass Boston, Merrill Lynch is residing on my land? It's mine. What then happens? Hypothetically, of course.
One of two things. I would advise that you would ask them to see a copy of the archaeology report to find out the steps that they took legally and what that looked like to be able to develop on that land. And that can be very in-depth. It's a very in-depth process. Or I would say, you know, I would probably make a claim to I would go send a copy of a constructive and public notice that is your land that they developed on to your Secretary of State. And then from there, I would also send a copy to the federal government, letting them know that this is an issue. Any written document that you send to either one, they must respond to you within 30 days. They have an opportunity to rebut or to call you or email you or to go right into a negotiation.
So I can't Christopher Columbus and say, UMass, give me my land back.
Say it again?
I can't Christopher Columbus and walk into UMass and say, this is my land. I own it. I can't do that.
Nobody says that you can't.
But there's steps that I have to take. Okay. Oh, well, what sucks is that paper genocide is a real thing, and not all of us can go ahead and make those claims that we know of as of now. Recently, you attended a convention. Is there anything that you can speak on as far as the convention is concerned that it's positive news that we can share with listeners?
Positive news? Positive news is that the United States federal government is looking at new strategies from expert Indigenous peoples to implement to build a better relationship with Indigenous communities.
That sounds like we have a lot of work to do. How do expert Indigenous people exist? Now, when I just recently finished reading Untold History of Massachusetts from a Black man's perspective, and it talks about how the Uncle Tomahawks went in and befriended some of indigenous people, ended up killing them, and then those fighters were then sent to I was going to say Ellis Island, then was sent to a concentration camp off the coast of Massachusetts. How do experts exist if there was a genocide of your people?
Well, expertise exists through a non-physical way, through a way that you cannot be taught through a book, through a university, through any kind of teaching. Expertise in the indigenous perspective comes from the spirit, the way that creator and your ancestors worked collectively to direct your appointment. Understanding as an indigenous person that your appointment is not your appointment, it's creator's appointment. So when people ask me all the time, they say, man, how did how did this happen? And I tell them, I say, well, I didn't do it. It wasn't me, it was creator. If I am a descendant of those very special people who once existed here, that creator put here to be the caretakers of this world and of this land, of his precious creation, then I must be just as real as they were spiritually. And I leave it like that.
We're coming to the top of the hour, and people are wondering, how can they get involved? How can they help? Do you need help?
I do. So I do need much help. I currently have my tribe, which is the Matakeesit tribe of the Massachusetts Indigenous people. We have a coalition, an international and national coalition to promote government-to-government relationships. And what we do is we find new ways to strategize on implementing laws and rights for indigenous peoples through our legislators, but also at an international level as well. So when the legislators don't want to hear it and they don't want to talk about it, we then say, okay, no problem. Well, you're going to have a letter from the UN and from your federal government to handle your business here at the state level. You're going to be held accountable. And so we're always looking for coalition partners who initially believe and who are into the fight for indigenous peoples and for the advancement of indigenous peoples. We're looking for people who can be very strategic in finding new ways and implementing new ways, and who are willing to bring ideas that they may have, or even expertise that they may have for indigenous peoples, so that we can utilize that to help build our communities. Without the indigenous community, it's going to be a struggle for everyone to live in such a way that they want to live in that peace and harmony and that balance. So we're looking for anyone who has any expertise, whether it's in business development, whether it's in peace and conflict resolution, just any expertise that you can bring to indigenous communities to enhance the goal and the objective of having our home back. You're welcome. You know, so that's a major way.
How can they contact you? How can they reach you? And for those that do not have an expertise, how can they be of help?
Those who don't have an expertise, the best way that they can be of help is to share. If you have a Facebook, a social media site, share. Get in contact with me through my name on Facebook is Wampamiquin Wampatuck. My email is Matakeesit tribalgov@gmail.com, and that's MATTAKEESET, tribal, TRIBAL, gov@gmail.com. Please send an email, letters of recommendation, letters of support to the indigenous peoples for having their land back, for having their natural resources. Share the information that we put up on Facebook with the people, and also word of mouth. If you have, some friends, just say, hey, did you know that there were Massachusetts indigenous people? Did you know that the word Massachusetts was taken from the Massachusetts tribe? Ask them simple questions, have dialogue about the indigenous people, because we're alive and we're still here. And we're working on a daily basis to recover lots and lots of those things that were stolen and taken from us without our free, prior, and informed consent.
That is absolutely amazing. And again, he says share. So if you don't have an expertise, please do share. I have a very ignorant question about indigenous beliefs and religion, and hopefully we can get you in studio and have another conversation with you where we can talk about religion, history, belief, traditions. As far as rain dancing is concerned, is that real? And how has it been explained in indigenous communities on how that, I want to say, that tradition has taken place? So I'm trying to understand the rain dance and the gods and how indigenous people's relationship to earth, to land, to spirit has evolved into what you guys believe today.
So again, each community has their own religions, and what may mean something to me may not mean something to the next tribe. So the rain dance, I'm sure that there was something very special, and there's many stories, but I don't think that we have the time for me to share them today. But there are many stories about what the rain represents, how it represents a cleansing. But a lot of things that you have heard about indigenous peoples have been falsified, it has been tampered with. So traditional beliefs are very sacred to indigenous people. And because of how much things have been stolen, taken, used against indigenous people, sometimes we hold those things very, very close to us, which makes them very sacred, because they were passed down as a tradition from an elder, or from a chief or a medicine or holy person from long ago. So sometimes we don't share as much as people would like for us to do, and it's nothing bad or nothing mean or anything like that. It's just that what we do have left, which is very little, we keep very sacred and we hold it preciously to our hearts and to our spirit. So maybe in a different setting we can speak more on that.
Last question. When do we stop requiring ourselves and each other to seek out this knowledge and to fix these problems? And when do we start demanding government to acknowledge and accept and explore how to make these things right? Not for better relations, but to right their wrongs.
So we've been a people of protesting for many years. Russell Means has been on the forefront, an amazing job. You know, all these great Indigenous leaders have done amazing, amazing jobs. And to tell someone what they've done wrong, that already understand what it is that they've done wrong, is almost pointless at this time. So for Indigenous peoples to be able to provide new solutions, if they cannot do it for themselves, would probably be the best thing that I could advise for Indigenous peoples to continue to do. Provide new solutions that make sense and show how these solutions can work. If you have a solution or an idea on how to build a governance that will be sustainable and attainable, I'm always open to sitting down with anyone who has an idea of what justice for the Indigenous peoples of the Americas looks like.
Thank you for that. I thank you so much. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope that we'll be able to have you back on to speak a little bit more in depth and to answer some of the questions. I know today, with it being a holiday, many people had the day off. So we may not have as many listeners as we usually do. But if anybody is listening, please share this on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it however you see fit. We did Facebook Live. We also are currently on YouTube. If you have any questions, please, I posted Wampa, please don't beat me, Wampy Miqui Wampatuck. His what? Say that again for me.
Wampanoag, Wampatuck.
Wampanoag Wampatuck. He is currently on my Facebook. It says that Wampanoag Wampatuck is live speaking about Indigenous people. We are alive and we are here. That goes straight to his Facebook page. If you have any questions, go ahead and you can ask him directly. Or if you wish, we can hold questions off until the next time that we're able to have him live, maybe in the studio. And thank you. Thank you so much for your dedication to the cause. Thank you so much for the education for those who don't know. And I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you so much, Tabani. Thank you for really just allowing for Indigenous peoples to have this time as a platform to voice our struggles and our social condition as it is today and as it is very present. So we thank you for this great opportunity. It doesn't take much to help and assist in Indigenous peoples. Providing a platform to be able to speak is one of the most important things that anyone can do for Indigenous peoples of the Americas. So we thank you greatly. We are most humbled and honored to be on the show with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Big City 101.3 FM, Waking Up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. I do, for those that are veterans, for those that have fought for our country, I do want to say Happy Memorial Day to you. I would also like to remind those who did not know that in May of 1865, free blacks in Charleston reburied the dead Union prisoners of war and held a cemetery dedication. There were 257 dead Union soldiers that have been buried in a mass grave in a Confederate prison camp. They were dug up, and for 2 weeks, the Charleston citizens went ahead and reburied them and gave them a proper burial and paid gratitude for them fighting for their freedom. And people will say that that is not the reason, that is not the cause of Memorial Day, that is not the origin of Memorial Day. But any day that speaks of Memorial Day comes after the 1865 when free blacks in Charleston reburied the dead Union prisoners of war that were held in a cemetery, concentration camp, mass burial ground. Do you understand me? Every single Memorial Day story of its origin dates after the free blacks in Charleston reburying the Union prisoners. So I'll just let that sit on your conscience for a minute. I bet you they ain't gonna tell you that nowhere else. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, ZC Boston. Chinese, Asian, great food, amazing food. They deliver until 1 a.m. and they deliver in Roxbury. They deliver 3 miles from Boston Medical Center in all directions. The food is absolutely amazing. In order for you to get half-price sushi, you do have to sit in on Saturday and Sunday between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. Don't forget to get a lychee martini. And I know Mass Ave doesn't have much parking, but they allow you to have up to 2 hours of free parking. And recently, Jerry has incorporated an amazing DJ to play on the weekends, and I think you'll enjoy him as much as I did this weekend. Shout out to Faith Natural Beauties for all her amazing products, the Pum Pum Wash, the deodorant, the lotion, the souffles, I just started using this activated charcoal face wash, and I started brushing my teeth with charcoal, which is very weird because it turns your teeth black while you brush them, but it actually is a teeth whitener. Activated charcoal. If you need a teeth whitener, hit up faithsnaturalbeauty.com. That's faith with an S, naturals with an S, beauty.com, and you get free samples. Do not forget the Cruise Cares on June 4th. Cruise Cares is a walk for our youth. Cruise is the management company and the developing company that has been building. They were the first African-American company here in the Northeast, construction company. We are so proud of them. We are going to honor them. They are live June 2nd. So shout out to all of those that have fought for our country. It's Memorial Day. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I wish that our government treated you better. I have no authority over that, but if I did, trust and believe that you will have all the benefits that you deserve. Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. Mwah.
Yep, that's right, baby. You know what it is? It's DJ Sus One, the feature presentation. Listen, make sure you wake up with Tayla Andre Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. on Big City 101.3 FM. Wake up with the Radio Rebel. Politics, news, conspiracies. Wake up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. This is the type of stuff I'm into, all right? Make sure you tune in. Let's go.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Facebook. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, viewers. Reggie, you want to come say hi to the peoples? All my people to be free. Yeah, okay. I'm sleepy too. I did not want to wake up this rising. I was exhausted. It's just dim. That's it.
Oh, is it dim screen?
Yeah.
Hi.
It was gonna run out of battery.
Rising. Good AM. Smiley face. 101.3 Big City. I'm in here with Taylor. I was over there snoozing, y'all. I was tired. Still tired. I'm going back to my bed.
I know. I did not want to wake up today.
It's okay.
I wanted.
You came.
Nobody else woke up today. Everybody else in bed.
You did.
I want to sleep too. That's okay.
No calls, no nothing. What's up with the no calls?
It's Memorial Day. Do you know how many people are in the bed to sleep on this rainy day?
This interview was very important for them to listen to.
It was, and I plan on replaying it.
And calling with a question because they don't know. They're going to learn today.
You know what? I like to lie to myself and say the reason why we didn't have callers is because I asked all the right questions.
Yeah, that's a lie. Yeah, that's a lie. Absolutely, that's a lie.
Oh, I love you guys so much. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Please share the information. Share with everybody. Share with anyone who's willing to listen. He said black people are indigenous people. So find out about your genealogy. Find out about the generations before you, because I had a Moor in my family, and I'm about to find out what land she owns and go tell Merrill Lynch to give me my land back. We about to Christopher Columbus. Thank you. Mwah! Enjoy your day. If anybody has any cookouts going on, let me know, because I'm hungry.
It must be indoor.
It's okay. We could be outside too.
Crazy.
In a tent.
Yeah, okay.
Someone's using their resources. I want to be there. I just want some macaroni and cheese, some candy yams.
She should be drinking this, y'all.
I know.
It ain't moonshine either.
Alkaline water. If you don't know, please do your due diligence. Find out what alkaline water is. And I give you a hint. It helps you fight, beat, and keep cancer away. Bet you didn't know that, huh? Ask Dr. Sebi. Alkaline foods is what kills all of those carcinogenic, cancer-causing woots.
What the hell was that?